Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the #1 hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the #1 GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. And check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, guys, if you're looking for a better way to stay hydrated this coming hunting season and on all your adventures in the future, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Their swig rig is awesome, an absolute game changer when it comes to staying hydrated. I get tired of playing around with any water bladders in my bag and having to remove things to get to them and the chance of them puncturing and all that. So what Hardside did, take Nalgene's, got multiple sizes, and you're attaching your hose straight to that. Keep it on the outside of your pack, a lot easier to use. They also have a lot of other cool things. Go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10. That's all one word. Save yourself 10% at checkout. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Be blessed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. And today I am joined by just an amazing human being. Somebody who's been on the show before. It's my neighbor and fellow hunting partner down here in the South, Sam Singleton. And we're going to be talking about quite a few different things here. First off, how the season has gone, my first season in the Whitetail woods, along with what to expect in the future, all sorts of stuff, missing Western hunting, and so much more. So stay tuned. You're going to really like this. But without further ado, my man, brother, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing much better now that I'm sitting here across from you.
I appreciate that.
You know, ready to shoot the breeze.
Yeah, I'm always down for that.
I'm ready to shoot some deer and some hogs and some coyotes. I mean, I'll shoot the breeze, but, you know.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't working out, we could, and the kids weren't in bed, we could go ahead and go out tonight.
If my wife was here so that I could leave the house and feel like, yeah, that one night that we took off where I was like, Sam, I got a hog in my feeder pen. And you're like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I think we got to go out there. And we drove.
Yeah.
I left. The wife didn't even know I was gone.
Yeah.
Kids were asleep.
I had just gotten back from hunting, too. That's what was funny.
Yeah.
I was archery hunting.
Yep.
That's what it was. It was during archery season. And I just killed that pig, that hog that looked like a cheetah.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
I killed that cheetah pig. That's what I called it. And was just getting home when you called me. And I literally just left. Actually, I got in with you, but I unloaded and grabbed my thermal, and we were out the door.
Dang. Hey, so all you listeners out there, down here in Texas, we have feeders set up, but the feed pens or the feeder needs to be protected by fences because it's active cattle ranches, and these cows will push over the feeders and do a lot of damage and all that, and then also to keep the hogs out.
Yeah.
And so one night I had a hog get inside my feeder pen, and I called Sam up and I was like, Sam, I'm supposed to be deer hunting in the morning. No deer are going to be showing up to this feeder if there's a hog sitting inside of it just squealing.
Yeah.
Like, we got to go take care of this.
Yeah.
So we went all the way out there and it somehow got out.
Yeah.
But the point is that it didn't go under. I've had this exact same hog
Yeah.
hop the fence and get in that.
Yeah. Somehow.
Whether climbing or running start, I don't know. But I do have proof that it jumped back out.
Well, it got over the fence. I still don't believe they can jump. And I would have to, we've had this talk a lot with other people as well.
Yep.
And, but it went over the fence. The fence was bent at the top.
Yes.
So it didn't jump over the fence. It went through / over the fence. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. We'll agree to disagree
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
agree and then also disagree. And
Sure.
also, who knows? I'm not even saying I'm right. I just know that the metal was bent at the top.
That's right.
Yeah.
It went over the fence.
It went over the fence.
Yeah. And I've seen that before as well.
Yeah.
But you don't see pigs jumping over a 5-strand barbed wire fence.
Yeah. Wild. Dude, I'll tell you, I got the biggest monkey off my back. Self-induced, self-placed monkey.
Yeah.
Everything that I've built with Soul Seekers, formerly Washington Backcountry, and now Soul Seekers, is this idea of mentorship as conservation. And I like to go out hunting for myself, but I'm typically always hunting in a larger group.
Mm-hmm.
One, because we're filming, or because I have hunting partners, or we're taking a mentee out, or it's like, and it's hard to justify splitting up.
Yeah.
If you're trying to film for content.
Sure.
So this year, coming down to Texas and getting a lease and getting set up, I've been hunting solo.
Yeah.
For the first time, really. Like, I've hunted a few times solo on day hunts.
Yeah.
Out in public land and doing stuff. But if it was ever like an overnight trip, I always had people with me.
Right.
I've never spent so much time walking in the dark as I have this year.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it never actually gets that dark out here because the stars are so bright. Like, no joke, the Texas stars are so bright that I've never had to put a headlamp on once, and I'm still just walking completely fine through a field.
Absolutely, yeah.
Without making a lot of noise to my blind.
Right. And it's not city lights that are glowing the horizon or anything like that. It's truly dark, and it's truly the stars.
Yeah. I mean, the stars at night.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Are big and bright.
Yeah.
Deep in the heart of Texas. But seriously, that's been something like being a Western big game hunter and shifting gears and coming to the east and the south and getting into the whitetail woods. It's so interesting that when I first put up the Tacticam cameras, the reveal cell cams, and I was getting pictures of deer at night, and all of a sudden I had this monster buck show up, and I was like, whoa, that's the deer I want to kill.
Yeah.
And then, putting up on social media a poll of like, hey, do I hold out for this buck or do I shoot the first legal buck?
Right.
Everyone from the state of Texas said hold out.
Absolutely.
Everyone not from the state of Texas said shoot the first legal deer.
Yeah.
Do you want to? I feel like you have something to say already about that.
Yeah, I do. I do have something to say about it. I look at it as we want to grow mature, big, old deer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's as plain and simple. And if you don't let these young deer mature and flourish and potentially grow into a really big deer, you won't have any big deer. So that's why I look at it as a management, as a, I guess you could call it a management program. And so that's my tunnel vision. I'm thinking future, which, at the end of the season, if I don't kill if I don't kill my target buck and we have culls around, I'll kill a cull buck. And we got some really good cull bucks out there, that are just, not to the symmetry, caliber, mass. They're just goofy. I call them goofy deer. One, spike on one side, but they got 8 on the other. You know what I mean? Just goofy things. Kind of like the deer I killed last year. But yeah, so I look at it as a management thing.
It's so interesting because in the state of Washington, where I come from, now granted, I don't really know the deer stats that much,
Sure.
but I can tell you that you don't see a whole lot of deer, or at least where I live.
Right.
I saw a couple decent bucks, and probably one of the biggest bucks that I saw for a blacktail. Man, actually, I want to pull this picture up and show you real quick.
Yeah, let me see.
Because I feel like this was a phenomenal deer for where I was. I don't even think it's that good of a deer for down here. Now, we were talking blacktail versus whitetail, so they look differently, but I feel like the majority of bucks that I always saw up in Washington was spikes or forks.
Right.
Just spikes and forks.
If people go and look at Johnny's Instagram and whatnot, Soul Seeker's Instagram, you can see the game cam pictures of the deer that Johnny had on camera, and it was for the area. I wouldn't say it's the biggest, but it would be on the list. It was a darn good deer. It was big. It had mass. It had everything you wanted. Very mature old buck. Any person within 20 miles of here would be tickled to death to get an opportunity to shoot that deer. It was really good. And that country that you're hunting is known to hold big mature deer.
So I'm showing Sam the picture of this blacktail. You can zoom in.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't show its side profile of the antlers, but look at that body. That's a muscular, strong.
Yeah, this is
deer.
indicative of a big large western deer. Nothing like a mule deer, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, this if I saw this deer come out here in Texas,
it'd probably get a pass.
Depending. So it also depends on where you're hunting and what your deer herd looks like. It's not. It's definitely not what you had on camera. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
This is. I'd say this is maybe a 130-inch deer. I'm not good at scoring either, but
it's really interesting. So the biggest thing is, for me, out west was, it's a shooter when you don't have to look through your binoculars.
Yeah.
And you can just see antlers. You're like, oh,
yeah,
that's a big buck.
Right.
At least from my perspective. Now, granted, I'm coming from a not too experienced hunter. This deer that I just shot a couple weeks ago just now officially tied me for the same number of bears and deer that I've shot.
Really?
Up until that buck,
yeah,
I've killed more or shot more bears than I have deer.
Wow.
Yeah. You're looking at my.
Yeah.
I got a spike buck, a small basket buck, and then I shot a doe.
Yeah.
On an archery tag.
Right.
This is a different buck he has more than, it looks like just spikes in that picture.
Right.
So this is end of October, beginning of November. Another blacktail where you just see antlers and you're like, that's a big deer.
Yeah, that's I'm not gonna say it's. I've killed spikes too. I've hunted Wyoming and been hunting in a migration area in Wyoming, and it's indicative of having big bucks come through. And I hunted it hard. I had a antler tag, and I passed on a couple deer that were young and little.
Yeah.
And had potential, but were young, needed to grow, and ended up killing spike. And I drove all the way to Wyoming to do it.
Yeah.
Mule deer tag, but every area will have different caliber of deer, and I'm always just looking at it as like we gotta grow big deer. We gotta keep the mature deer around and grow it.
What do you think about this idea of? So in the state of Washington, where I came from, mule deer is 3-point minimum.
Yeah.
So you'll get a fork and an eye guard, and that's a legal deer.
Right.
Hopefully you'd have a third point on a branch.
Sure. Yeah.
But does that really grow big deer? I don't know. Then you look at the elk game. You know, if you can shoot spikes.
Yeah.
That people get really irritated. You either can shoot a 3-point or better.
Right.
Or spike.
Yeah. Or Colorado's a little different too.
Yeah. Yeah. Different states have different regulations.
Sure. But similar.
But it's like, okay, now you looking at it from a Texas growing deer, growing animals perspective, is that really the best?
It's an argument to be had, I think, but there's no doubt about it that older deer have bigger racks. To an extent, you know what I mean? So a larger profile of antlers on a buck is indicative of an older deer. That's not necessarily always true. You see these high fence deer that got crazy antlers and they're 2-3 years old. Genetics play a lot into it, but anyways, that's kind of how I and I'm by no means an expert at aging or
no, but
you know what I mean.
You have a different perspective than what I've come up to.
Yeah.
It's so going back to this whole monkey off the back thing. I haven't killed a big game animal since 2020.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
I've been in the presence of animals dying, but I haven't actually killed one myself.
I'll say this: I think that hog that we both shot
Counts.
Can be considered a big game animal.
That is true.
It's a pretty good one.
That was a big one.
Good boar. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, not to take you off the rails.
No, I mean, but that's kind of how
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Because when people say, "Oh, I want to hunt," the first animal that they think of is deer.
Yeah.
They're like, "I want to kill a deer."
Yeah. I mean, that's
they don't consider hogs or coyotes.
Or, sure. Yeah.
Or
yeah. I mean, it's saying deer. It's probably the most hunted animal in the whole United States.
No, it is. Yeah.
I mean, waterfowl is probably in there second, but who knows? I really don't know.
No one's like, man, I'm becoming a hunter because I want to be a cougar hunter.
Well, I know a couple guys, but
like they don't hunt anything else.
I know a guy that runs dogs, and all he does is run dogs on bears, and
but
you know what I mean.
I think running dogs might be a little bit different than like there's more of a purpose.
Sure.
But someone doesn't just like wake up one day and they're like, okay, in my heart, I want to be a hunter.
Yeah, I want to go hunt raccoons.
Yeah.
Trapping's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But
we're going to do that at some point. Yeah. So I shot this buck, and in my heart, I am so happy and satiated and complete.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because it goes into like on the lease paperwork that I signed, it said to shoot mature deer, like 4.5 years and better. And I'm like, well, this is not a 4.5-year-old deer.
No, it wasn't.
So then I guess maybe I broke the lease contract in that regard. But for me,
I'll back you up.
Like, I am so happy.
Yeah, people hear you say that, but I really see it. Because I'm with you a lot, and we talk a lot, and I know how frustrated it was getting. Like you said, monkey on your back, monkey on your shoulder. It was time that we needed to get it done, and it was bothering you. But it's great when it happens.
Oh man, so exciting!
It's
so it's
awesome.
Also the first animal I've ever killed by myself.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. Yeah.
So I have. Let's see here.
Maybe some coyotes or something, but
Yeah, maybe a raccoon
Sure,
or
sure.
like a small game.
yeah, yeah.
But a big game animal that you're
You're going to consume. You're
Uh-huh.
taking that deer home and you're feeding it to your folks.
Yeah, first one I've ever killed all by myself with no one else present.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah,
Um,
it's strange because I hear you say that, and I think about all the deer that I've killed, and I'm not going to sit here and say I've killed 100 deer. I don't know how many I've killed,
yeah.
but I've killed more deer by myself. I've killed more game in general by myself than I have with other people.
But excuse me. It's interesting. That's part of like sit in a stand.
Yeah,
You're safe here. I'll sit in this stand.
yeah,
You do your thing. You end up being by yourself a whole lot more down here.
yeah,
Versus, I mean, I was scared of the woods. I was scared of the dark. Still to this day, I have some creepy feelings out in the woods where I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know if being out here by myself is really the best idea.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe a little bit of coward creeps in
Well,
or wisdom. I don't know.
it's. I don't mean this in a bad way, but it may just be you haven't done it a lot. It's
Yeah.
inexperience. You
Mhm.
haven't experienced it that often or
Yeah.
that much by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and I went through it too.
Mm.
I had the same feelings.
Yeah.
I was a lot younger, but I went through it. I did it.
You weren't approaching 40 years old and
Hey, and I'm not bashing you for it by no means.
no. It's a part of what makes this story so
Absolutely, and talking about hunting by yourself.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but my dad drove to Colorado, and he drew a mule deer tag, and he went up there and hunted completely solo, took nobody with him, and he went up there and killed a mule deer buck by himself.
Wow.
Got into some hairy weather and all that. I've never done that. I've never drove across states to go hunt completely by myself
Mm-hmm.
in the mountains. That's a totally different beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, that's just
Yeah.
kind of neat. Hearing you say that, and
Yeah, and probably a lot of people don't even realize it. Not that it's not like something that you would talk about more often. It wasn't even until like halfway through the hunting season this year that I realized I was like, holy smokes, I've never killed an animal by myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
good thing you've done it now.
I've done it.
Take it and run with
I can
it.
check that box.
Absolutely.
Like it felt. So I have this. I filmed it. I filmed the hunt, and I have my reaction. And I posted some of this on social
Yeah.
media. But the video that I posted, I go, I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
That wasn't me. Like
There's no theatrics to it.
none. There was
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing about that was like, oh, I'm going to talk to the camera and be like, oh man,
Yeah.
I did it. Like that was really.
Genuine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish all the listeners, and this is definitely not possible. It wouldn't even make sense, but so I was mic'd up and I mic'd myself up and also had two different cameras in the blind. Only one camera was running
Yeah.
for the shot, which the fact that it got on camera
Miracle. We'll just say that.
like truly incredible. But once I then turned on the camera that was facing me, that was the one that was mic'd up, and I turned it on, and I want to speak. Like I shot.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything other than watch that deer run into
off.
the woods,
Yeah.
and it looked like it ran off completely fine.
Yeah.
And I turned the camera on, and I start to move my lips. Nothing comes out.
Really.
And it's just I have all this footage that I would love to show you like at some point because it's the behind the scenes of hunting.
Absolutely.
It's not just the trigger pull of
Yeah.
like, oh man, I killed an animal. I hit it. It's like at that moment,
Yeah.
after I shot, I thought I missed that deer.
Right.
And I went from the holy smokes,
I just shot at a deer too. I've been sitting here all season long, and I had my one opportunity,
And I just blew it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer, or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
And on film, I finally talked to the camera, and then I realized I wonder if I got it on film.
Yeah.
Because my camera was the listeners, you'll probably see this. So I'm going to end up putting this hunt on our YouTube channel. But I saw this deer just for a flash second, just the back of it,
Right.
about 40 yards off to my right, and I'm sitting in an archery blind, pop-up blind. But it's behind fence posts.
Yeah, you're on a corner.
I'm on a corner, and I'm like, oh, I hit record. The minute I hit record, this deer jumps this fence and starts sprinting across the field, which the field is only about 50 yards wide. It's not
In that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it narrows down.
And I'm like, and my gun is on the ground because I'm so fed up. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
I have the text messages.
Yeah. I'm like, I'd rather go walk this place and try to jump a deer
Yeah.
than sit in this blind and not see anything.
Right.
So my gun's on the ground, and I'm sitting there, I'm about ready to go, and all of a sudden, this gray shadow, behind this railroad tie type corner fence post. It's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a hardwood corner.
You can't see anything.
Yeah.
And I hit record, and my camera lens just happens to be zoomed out enough that you see the deer jump and run, and then I'm like, oh crap, I better stop this deer. And I gave it the old classic.
It worked.
And the second one got it to stop, and it stopped right before the edge of the frame.
Yeah.
And I offhanded that.
Yeah, you didn't have anything else to do.
I hit record, I grabbed my gun, I went, pow. And then it turned, no mule kick, no nothing.
Yeah.
And turned and ran off.
Yep.
And I was like, what, 4 seconds? 1 1,000, 2. All
Yeah,
this happened
yeah.
so fast.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this camera, and I'm like, holy crap, I actually got the deer in frame.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't think I hit it.
Yeah.
Even on the video, I can't zoom in on the camera I have. You can zoom in on photos, but you can't zoom in on the video.
Right. On the camera itself.
Yeah, so I'm like, crap.
Yeah. You were
I was so.
You sent me the text and said, I just shot a buck, but not sure if I hit it. Not sure if I hit it, but I don't think I could have missed it.
Yes.
And I mean, I've shot your gun. I know what I know what it's capable of.
Yeah.
You put it on the animal,
It's
hitting where you freaking aim.
so I ended up shooting the deer a little. It was quartering 2.
Yeah.
It was running away,
Best case
but then
scenario.
it quartered 2. So
Yeah.
I actually hit right behind the front shoulder, and it exited out a little further back.
Yeah, excellent.
But I went out. I got my gun, grabbed the GoPro camera, and I'm like, I gotta go find blood.
Yeah.
I gotta go find blood, and I'm not finding blood, and I'm looking at the camera, and I'm like, where? Like, I'm marking it based off of trees. Where was I sitting and shooting? All of a sudden, I saw a speck of blood, and then I saw another speck,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my god, thank you. There's blood on the ground.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not very much blood. And I started tracking it. And I was like, well, I know it ran into that dark spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just jump ahead and go there, but I want to see like how much blood. And there's that creek that is on the backside of the hardwoods, probably like a 15, 20 foot deep drop to get into it.
Yep.
So I'm trailing this blood, and some spots look like it's decent, some not. And it hops the fence. I'm like, okay, how bad is this deer actually shot if it's hopping this fence really, really well? And it goes down the ditch. And down the ditch, you see big blood smears. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm expecting this deer to lay dead down at the bottom of this creek.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, that blood goes back up the other side. I'm
Yeah.
like, no way. This deer's not dead.
Yeah.
Now I'm trailing a deer that I should have let bed.
Yeah.
But so I had like
worried about it.
The highest of highs, the lowest of lows.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
I was all over the place. So that finally, when I walked up and I got to see a dead deer laying out there, and I was like, I did it.
It dumped.
I did it.
Yep.
That was, I showed it to my kids. They were like, why are you whispering?
Yeah.
The deer's dead. You're not going to scare it away. But I was like, I think if you could, and maybe I'm not even doing a good job telling the story, but if you could take that, bottle it up.
You'd be a millionaire.
Yeah. And say, this is what you get to experience as a hunter.
Yeah. And just pour a little out on somebody.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's special, you know. Yeah, it was excellent, man. It was, you know, I wanted to. I had a lot of words to say to you after you sent me those texts and all that, and I was, you know, I wanted to tell you, hey, man, them deer are full of testosterone or getting that way, and you know they're amped up, and you know they'll make some. You hit them right in the sucker, and they'll still move on you.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their will to survive is extreme.
Mm-hmm.
They'll run on adrenaline for a good while, you know. Try to give you a little reassurance, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm not there with you, so I'm not looking at the blood that you're looking at. I'm not, you know, I don't know the situation.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but it worked out.
Oh, man. So happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So happy. So full story of this whole like growing deer and all this stuff is I shot this deer believing that it was the one buck that I've had on camera. Once the rut kicked in, all my deer disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not getting consistent deer.
Yeah.
Or even bucks on camera. Like all the bigger bucks that I was getting on camera, I was like, oh, I'd shoot him or I'd shoot him. They all died.
Yeah.
They all got shot.
Well, yeah.
Except for the biggest one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, I'm just shooting the first legal deer.
Yeah.
Because here's another thing is when people are hunting just for themselves, like you'll hold out.
Right.
I put this pressure on myself that I also want to take my kids out.
Yeah.
I also want to take out a mentee.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't dedicate time to these other hunts that I want to do.
Right.
If I can't drop my deer. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to still be like, oh, dude, I still need to get a deer.
Yeah.
And so that was a part of the pressure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Beyond not killing an animal since 2020, it was like, or an animal, a deer.
Right. Good consumable game.
Yeah. Something you would notch a tag on.
Absolutely. There you go.
That was like this big pressure on me. I was like, dude, I need to shoot an animal, not only for me, but because I want to teach other people.
Right.
I want to have these experiences with my children.
Sure, absolutely.
You know? So when it happened, it went down, I was like, oh, dude, praise God. And then I was thinking, man, seeing a 4.5-year-old deer, and but
what did I tell you? Don't sweat it, man.
No, it's so interesting, and this is where the paradigm shift of every hunt is your own hunt.
Yep.
The minute that you compare or like thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
If you felt good enough to want to squeeze a trigger,
Yeah, it's worth everything.
It's worth everything.
That's right.
Be proud of it.
Yeah.
You know, President Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy himself, he said, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Yeah, it is. You know, it's every hunter to some extent is guilty of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's in human nature. You know, but yeah, it's your hunt's your hunt. You know, I will never bash anybody for killing a young deer, spike, does, whatever. You know, it's everybody hunts for a different reason.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take it away from them. It's wrong to do it. People do it all the time. I've been guilty of it myself.
Yep.
But that's something that I've really worked on personally
Mm-hmm.
in the last 3 years or so, 3 to 5 years. But
Yeah. Dude, I'm so jacked. I can't wait. You know what's really interesting is this deer by the state standards. Like, so earlier we talked about in different states, point minimums.
Yeah.
In Texas, it has to be 13 inches wide.
Right.
And
inside spread
or wider than the ears, which is typically, that's
it,
kind of
it'll be more than 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a deer, like my best deer to date that's hanging on the wall right here, actually isn't even a legal deer
Right.
in the state of Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to me, I was like, dude, this is a big deer.
Right.
It's not big. It's just bigger than that spike that's sitting right down below it.
Sure.
And so when I was talking to somebody, this is where I am a huge proponent of never quantify your hunt to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It is hard to.
meaning you shot it, be proud of it.
Absolutely.
I can't stand when I see on like Facebook forums or posts where it's like, oh, it's not the biggest buck, but I'm really, but it'll feed the family.
Right.
It's like, why do you say it's not the biggest buck?
Yeah. Why'd you kill it? I mean, what? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm on board with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me on this buck, I was talking with Josh Fields, marketing director at Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, hey man, tell me about the buck that you shot. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth a little bit on this.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I started to say, oh, it's not the biggest. And I stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the reason why I started to do that is because I felt the need to justify the size of the deer that I shot based off of Texas standards or this idea of like, well, you're not going to have big deer if you shoot young deer, or,
Right. Right.
And then I was like, wait a minute, no. What I get to share is that's my biggest buck to date.
Absolutely.
Like
First Texas deer,
my first Texas whitetail.
First whitetail, first deer killed by yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there.
And I'm like, there's so much in there. And even I, a person who is aware of how I speak about it, I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I am too.
Pissed me off.
Yeah, it'll upset you.
I was like,
especially when you can realize it.
Yeah. I'm like, doggone it.
Yeah.
So because how we speak, people pay attention. So we need to, defensive hunting specifically, like we have to speak in a manner that is proud.
Yeah.
Not prideful, but to be proud of something.
Yeah.
Speak with pride in a manner of like, yeah, it's honorable.
100%. Yeah.
I feel like anytime someone quantifies it, it's like, oh, it's not the biggest, but it's like,
well, that that get on the Outdoor Channel and watch some shows on there. It's a lot of it is geared towards how big. When people are watching it sitting on the couch at home, they want to see people killing big deer.
mm-hmm.
What they don't see or know is those hunters that they're watching on TV have killed smaller deer as well, and they were just as proud of that small deer as they are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's and I'm not against anybody killing big deer by no means. I want to kill big deer as well, but it's not all about that.
Yeah.
And people get lost in it, and I've been guilty of getting lost in it as well. But yeah, it's interesting.
What's your take on this whole idea of social media and the modern day marketing of hunting ruining the experience and ruining the actual like pureness of it?
Well,
Because the whole comparison is the thief of joy concept.
it I don't know. Previously, I had no social media. I had it, years ago when I was bodybuilding. I was on there a lot.
Yeah.
Had sponsors, all this, Um, so it was like it was a part of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And after I got out of bodybuilding, I completely abandoned all forms of social media.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because I didn't have to, but I wanted to just completely drop it, everything, and go back to what I love doing, which is hunting.
Yeah.
And so I hunted a lot of years, and well, I say a lot, probably 5 years, 3 to 5 years, and killed some good deer during that time, and didn't have a social media,
Mm-hmm.
which was perfectly fine. Kept it all to myself and my close friends and whatnot. But then after hunting with you and seeing your social media, I'm like, man, I need to people would enjoy seeing this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think social media has ruined hunting. I guess it's all about perspective and how you look at it. But I want to see what my friends are doing, and I want to see their photos of their hunts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I got back on it. But yeah, I don't know that it's ruining hunting. It may be giving false hope or information to an extent of, man, these guys are all killing 150-inch deer every single year, and I cannot do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Expectations, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Not saying that you can't kill 150-inch deer every year. I know people in Kansas that do it all the time.
Yeah.
But it's all about where you're at and what you're doing, and I don't know. I use social media now as to see like, what are people doing, what are their hunts looking like, but it's hard to get a full story of basically like what you just said in your hunt.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to look at a picture and know all of that.
Right.
And some people don't even care to hear it. They're just looking at the horns on the animal, which is fine. That's their own thing. But there's a lot more to a picture than just a picture.
I listened to Cameron Haynes was on
Yeah.
the Joe Rogan podcast this last week.
Yeah.
And the episode we were going to do live, an Instagram live tonight on hunting socialism, was about like a 5-minute portion of that podcast where they talk about going west and how like Western hunting, because of social media, people are saying it's being ruined and that trailheads are so overpopulated.
Yeah.
Hunters everywhere and all this
Yeah, I
stuff.
can testify to that.
But is that a bad thing?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not a bad thing,
Yeah.
but people that were used to having it all to themselves are now having to experience other people wanting to join them.
Right.
And with that being said, I have seen some selfless people on the mountain.
Yeah.
And had bad experiences on the mountain. I don't know.
So I was on, I was a guest on the Hunt Backcountry podcast with Exo Mountain Gear.
Yeah.
Steve Speck is the owner, and Mark Hulsing is the host. Those two guys had me on for an episode, and I was sharing my mission of mentorship is conservation, and how, we're all about hunter recruitment and hunter mentorship and all this stuff. And
and Steve, I specifically remember this, and we can go back. I mean, any listener of this could go back and listen to this episode and hear this interaction.
Right.
But Steve was like, "Man, I don't know if I really want that." And listen. Don't quote me on this. I'm pulling from
Yeah. Shooting off,
maybe
shooting from the hip.
maybe 5 years ago. So no hate mail. But this is something for everyone to chew on. Is I was saying, the more hunters, the better. Whether everyone wants to hunt is regardless. Everyone having a skill set is very important, and tribal roles. But I was like, yeah, my goal is to let everyone have a experience, a perspective,
Sure.
rather than an opinion. And he's like, man, I hate when I go out and to hunt when it's my time to be quiet and do what I love, where I
Yeah.
see nothing but other people.
Yeah. Lift your binoculars and see orange.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get that. I understand that.
Right.
But being an athlete, former college athlete and coach and all this stuff, I know that competition breeds success.
Absolutely.
Because the minute that you don't have to compete, well, look at COVID, for instance. When the world shut down and everyone was, quote unquote, I'm holding up fingers, air quotes right now, working from home,
Yeah.
dude, people have started the worst habits in their lives.
Yeah. I agree.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have to get up, or I don't
Sure.
have to shower. I don't have to, And so they got apathetic. They got
Yep.
lazy. They rested on their laurels a lot,
Yeah.
rather than constantly being sharp.
Right. Right.
And so this whole idea of like competition breeds success, I caught Steve Speck off guard with it, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that episode."
Yeah. We'll have to do that.
because that's how a lot of people view it, is like, excuse me, guys, I got late night cough kicking in.
Speaking of COVID,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
teasing you.
But this whole idea of like hunting socialism and out west, and I just logged in on Friday to try to attempt to get an Idaho elk tag.
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls and I were planning on creating some content this year
Sure.
of
Yeah.
doing an elk hunt together.
Absolutely.
And I logged in and I got assigned number 12,483.
Yeah.
So that means there's 12,
That many people ahead of you.
That many people ahead of me. And I was texting some other people and watching social media. And one person said, yeah, I know somebody that's in the 50,000. And I was like, well, that sounds outrageous.
Yeah.
Needless to say, this was my first experience of really like putting in and doing this type of stuff. And everyone's complaint is that there's more and more people wanting to do it.
Yeah.
More and more people are applying for Idaho because of what they see on social media or the opportunity or whatever it is.
Right.
And I ended up, by the time I got in, I had an opportunity if I wanted to get a deer tag or even an elk tag. I had that, but it wasn't in the units that I wanted.
Right.
And so I was like, well,
You're gonna
poop.
wait next year. Yeah.
So I now have an Idaho hunting license, which good on them for saying, okay, you have to buy a hunting license before you can actually buy a tag.
Yeah.
So Idaho got $200 from me.
I was fixing to say that's a whole nother conversation right there.
But I'm like, okay, I'm fingers crossed, because spring bear, then that's not a license now I have to buy if I want to go hunt spring bear.
Right.
Or wolf.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Which you have seen.
I have seen.
In Idaho.
So we got so many different topics, threads going here, that focusing on this idea of going west.
Yeah.
And the overcrowding. Being in Texas, like going to my lease, going to my portion of the state of Texas where I get to sit down and watch animals and hope that I get to shoot one. Like, it's cool. And everything that I experienced fulfilled me.
Right.
Being alone,
shooting
it offhand, like
the process.
Like the process. I am fulfilled.
Right.
And I'm over here looking out west at the mountains. Not that we can actually see them. It's too far. But
Jalapeno Mountains.
I'm like, dude, how do I go west every year?
Yeah.
Every year. And I need to go west 2 times every year
Yeah.
because I'm not hunting black bears anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so I need to hunt bears.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I've never killed a mule deer. That's something that I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to continue hunting elk.
Right. But how do you do it?
But like,
What's the plan?
yeah, where's the money come from? Like, how do I go about planning this with my jobs or my wife and kids? And
Yeah, it's I hate to say it like this, but I feel like hunting is almost becoming a rich man's sport now.
yeah,
It's there's certain tags in states that even just a hunting license for an out of state hunter is getting pretty expensive.
mm-hmm.
So it's that hurts,
Yep.
I hate to see that because I think of all the people I know people that would love to do it, but maybe can't afford it or wouldn't never doing it before, wouldn't invest, say $700 on a hunting license.
Yep.
To not know where you're going and what you're doing. So that's kind of another thing you can tie into that as well of,
Yeah, how can I, I'm not one for slipping something by the wife or whatever, but it's like,
Right.
man, I I signed up to buy an elk tag for this next fall, not even knowing like if I could make it happen. But then I'm always like, well, if there's a will, there's a way, or if life's meant to happen, it's gonna fall, come together.
Right. Yeah, that's like, man, I've bought, I put in to draw in New Mexico and places like that where they don't have a point system.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it for 5 years in a row before and not been successful. So I feel you on that.
Yeah.
It's like, where am I going to hunt? Looking at next year, what's my plan?
Right.
And so what's your plan? You got a plan? Or are you still working on it?
Well, because I'm in transition,
right,
for a potential job switch.
Understand. It's up in the air.
It's up in the air, but
right.
I want to in June. Well, so okay. I want to go hunt spring bear in Idaho again.
Right.
I want redemption.
Yeah. I do too.
At the end of May, beginning of June, but then I know that I have a family vacation at the end of June.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to plan all this out.
I'm like, how am I going to swing a new job?
Sure.
So I actually sent a message to the owner, and I was like, "Hey man, you want to hunt spring bear in Idaho with me?"
Hey, it's not a bad thing. That'd be I wish I could do that.
And he was like, "Heck yeah!" And so I sent him I was like, "Well,
here's the deal.
Between May 15th and June 15th, it's kind of the sweet spot."
Yeah. Yeah.
He also didn't respond at that point, so I mean, whatever.
We'll just see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So here I am, I am also looking at like, okay, I live in Texas now.
Right.
I want to hunt Idaho.
Yep.
I don't really care so much to hunt Oregon. I definitely don't want to go back to Washington, even though part of me does because I love the terrain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, shoot, Idaho's really far away from Texas.
Yes.
So do I need to start looking at Colorado? Like, all these other states, I started looking at
Nevada.
Like, do I want to fly there versus drive?
Arizona, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's some big deer in Arizona.
Right. So
there's lots of things to look at. We were messaging a couple days ago about buying points and stuff, and I was starting to think like, what states do I even have points in? Like, I'm not even sure. I think I've got points in every state you can buy points in, except for I know I don't have points in Maine, but it's strange. It's different. It's something to look at,
Yep.
But I was thinking about this before I came over. like I wanted to ask you, like, what's your favorite state to hunt in?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've only ever hunted Washington, Idaho, and Texas.
Yeah. I just think, like, I was trying to think about it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've hunted, I can't even tell you how many different states I've hunted in, but trying to think of, like, what state do I like hunting in the most? I think it's Texas.
Really?
Yes. And let me tell you why. It's because you can hunt whitetail here. You can go out on the river and hunt. You can shoot alligator gar with a fishing bow. You can go down to the coast and hunt migrating ducks. You can go down to the coast and hunt nilgai. You can go to Junction and hunt bighorn sheep and axis deer, free range, and huge whitetails and elk. You can go out west and hunt elk. There's a lot to be had here in Texas.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's my favorite place to hunt.
Mm.
And that's bias for me living here my whole life, but there's a
lot
lot to offer.
Do the mountains ever call to you?
You know,
Because where we were, our scenery on that spring bear hunt this last year.
yeah,
Oh
it was postcard.
yes, gorgeous.
You know what I mean? It was postcard. I don't know that they call to me, but I definitely enjoy being there. I don't know. I've never experienced that. I guess you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't raised by the mountains. Just visited them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that's where we're different. Is
I cut my teeth in the mountains.
absolutely you did, and that's all you ever knew. And so you're like, man, it's calling me home.
Yeah.
And I probably feel the same way about Texas, you know. But if you go, I mean, like I said, you go out there to Junction and go look at them mountains,
Mm-hmm.
throwing finger quotes up.
Yeah.
Go to the Big Bend and go look at that. I mean, telling you, it'll remind you.
Yeah.
It's different.
I think if I could hunt black bear in Texas,
Yeah.
then
You would never leave.
I'd be content.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because I can't hunt bear
Yeah.
in Texas, it's like, okay, I have to.
Yeah, and I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm on your coattail going there. Absolutely.
Oh man. What's your thought about just like you just said, I guess you said it already that you just love hunting Texas. Like,
Yeah.
it's your favorite. But how do you go about planning every year? Are you like, I want to do out of state hunt every year?
Yeah. So, yeah, my year is guaranteed. I'm going to go to Arkansas to hunt goose every year. That's a given. It's going to happen every year. May go up there for a duck hunt. A good friend of mine up there, near Jonesboro, got a big outfit up there, and he comes to Texas and hunt. We go up there and hunt with him, and so I'm definitely going to Arkansas every year until, God forbid something happens.
Right.
And then I'm gonna go hunt. I'm gonna go up north and hunt either Colorado every year or every 2 years I'll probably go to Wyoming and hunt. And then whatever else happens between, just like the spring bear. You asked me if I wanted to go, and time was right, and I said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. I got to, my wife is pregnant right now, and we're gonna have a daughter here first of the year. Yeah. The first of the year, so that's gonna kind of throw a loop in things. But I'm still going to Arkansas, and I think, and I might be mistaken, we're going back to Wyoming next year in September. But yeah, that's kind of what next year looks like.
Dude, I want to hunt from August until November.
Yeah.
And then, but like do a week-long trip, come home and spend time.
Yeah.
Week-long trip, come home and spend time.
Yeah.
Rather than like being gone
Yeah.
the entire time. But
Yeah.
like,
I spoke earlier about my dad going to Colorado by himself.
yeah.
He drove from Kansas to Colorado. He was hunting. He spent a week in Kansas and hunted up there with our friends up there in Kansas. and then drove from Kansas to Colorado.
What do you think makes that possible? Being in your job long enough where you've accumulated enough time off, or
Yeah, I mean, and speaking for my dad, yes, he's put his time in and earned his spot in the corporation, and
yeah,
and I say that 15 years ago, 20 years ago, absolutely not an option for him. He earned to be where he is, and so that's why he's able to do it. And he's got drive. He wants to do it. He's chasing it. Yeah, that's why he does it.
so cool.
As far as I know, I'm speaking for him, but
Well, yeah, right. Switching careers, I left so much time off in the state of
yeah,
Washington.
you told me that.
And coming down here as a school teacher and saying, all right, you got 10 days for this year in between little kids that get sick,
Yeah, it's tough.
or going to show season, or, hunts. I'm like, I ain't stacking days. My 10 days are going to be burned this year.
Right.
I just look at people like, man. So the grass is greener on the other side, but it's not always greener. So really, it's just more about how bad you want it, and then create the lifestyle to support it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just like us going on these thermal hunts. Get the kids to bed, let the wife do her thing, and let's take off. Similar but different. Same but different.
Yep. Man. All right, we could BS for a long time. Thanks for being a part of my hunting season this year.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Getting to watch you learn and go through the struggle, and it's good for you to experience something different and learn and fail and all that. You know what I mean? It's important, and it's hard to see from your perspective in the beginning, but now you're like, all right, yeah, you know what I mean?
The interesting thing is ever since I killed my buck, I actually went out and hunted 3 times with my kids.
Yeah.
After that,
Yeah.
Never saw a single deer.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of just because you have a feeder
does not mean that there's going to be deer there every time you show up.
doesn't. Yeah.
No.
At all. I mean,
Yep.
I sat multiple times leading up to me shooting that deer.
Yep.
Without seeing a single deer.
Right. Yeah. I hate to make this about my dad, but he said he's hunted since Colorado. We were in Colorado on the elk hunt. Since he got back, he hadn't seen an animal one, and he had sat a bunch. He had hunted a lot, and it was bothering him. Getting to him, it's like same situation like you. Where are the animals at?
Yeah.
I know there's deer and hogs and everything else just everywhere out here. Where are they at?
Yep. So before we wrap this up, I think, Sam, you experienced how I game plan on that Idaho bear hunt that we did this last year.
Yeah.
Where we packed in 6 miles to get to this destination that, in theory, was going to be a honey hole.
Yeah.
I
think it was. There were just no bears.
That is true. It did look really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
To being there less than 24 hours and being like, I think we need to move, and relocating.
Yeah.
And hiking all the way back out.
Yep.
And getting on bears.
Yeah, it was
So when it comes to this whitetail sits,
yeah,
that's the frustrating part.
Yeah, I understand.
Because I'm like, okay,
it's a different type of hunting.
Like I can't just. They could be here, but they're not, and they're not while I'm here. So where are they, and can I go find them?
Yeah.
That's where I struggle.
Yeah, it's going from looking glass and seeing animals a mile away to where you're looking at a mesquite flat and you can see 50 feet. It's a little different, you know. But it creates patience, and it's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's expanding your portfolio.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you passed on what you told me at the beginning of the season was going to be one of your shooter list deer.
Well, yes, I did, and it actually was not the same deer that I showed you pictures of.
It wasn't?
No, it was not. Different buck. It was during archery season. Saw a lot of bucks in archery season, and rattled in a real good one. He was probably, I don't know, 20 inches wide or more. But it was archery season, and I get to hunt until February. Because where we hunt is MLD, managed through the state, so we get an extended season. So it was real early, and kind of regret it now. Haven't seen anything to that caliber. They're out there. I know they are. I've seen them, but I haven't physically had them in front of me. But that's just part of it. I'm not gonna let it haunt me. I did for a couple days, After I looked at that video I sent you over and over again of this buck coming in, posturing up real good, stomping around at 10 yards. But there's still good deer out there. That deer has not been killed. He's still out there. Haven't seen him again, but he's still around.
Wild.
It's that's where I'm blessed, and that place we hunt on, it's 2,200 acres, pretty good size piece, so I know he's out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, like I said earlier, if I don't get to kill a real good mature, nice deer, I'll be able to take a cull we got some deer that need to be culled off.
Yeah.
And
so I had a text message yesterday morning from the guy Miles.
yeah,
But for the listeners, it's the guy who his lease borders my lease.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of the same deer.
Same property, same property owner, but he's another leasee.
For the longest time, so the big buck that Sam talked about on my camera, this guy is hunting him.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the season, I was like, oh crap, I want to hunt him also.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, if everyone's hunting him, that doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily see him. And then I don't know what will happen. And do I pass on a nice deer
Right.
for him, knowing that I'd be pleasantly pleased with any other deer?
Sure.
Anyway, so needless to say, he every now and then he checks on me and he sends me a text. And yesterday he goes, have you got any pictures of the buck?
Yeah, the buck.
The buck, which no, so far in Texas, no one names their whitetails. Which I don't. Is that more of a Midwest thing?
I do. I name every single one of them I see.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, like Kelsey. I told you she's hunting the bull buck. It looks like a bull.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can. I know I don't have any videos of it. I used to. I deleted them. I had to clear up some space on my phone. But he's a 4-point. He's got 2 G1s or brow tines, and then 2 main beams. And his main beams come.
He's that one that came in on you.
I've sent you video of him before, but he comes up. His horns wrap around the front of his face like a bull, and so I call him the bull buck. But anyways,
So you do name your deer?
Yeah.
Okay, so Miles, he calls it the buck, and I go, nope. Last pick of a buck I had was 2 weeks ago, and he's like, dang it. And then he sent me a picture. He goes, I had this buck at 60 yards and let him walk, and I think I'd shoot that deer every day, but that's it's smaller than that other buck.
Yeah. Same situation as Miles is in as I am. He knows the caliber of deer. He's been on that lease for a long time, so he knows what to expect.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a holdout like I am.
So this is an interesting conversation I want to share with everyone. So I go, is that today? He goes, last week. I go, all the big bucks either disappeared or were shot early in the season that I was after.
Right.
He goes, do you think I messed up by letting him walk? He asked me this.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't believe you're asking me this.
Yeah.
It's not my answer.
It's not your hunt.
It's not my hunt. I go, so my response was, not my call to make. I just know on my lease, I haven't had a mature buck since Halloween show, but your area seems to get a good mix.
Right.
Which is 100% the truth, because opening rifle weekend, his wife shot the buck that he let walk earlier in the morning.
Yeah.
That I would have shot
Like,
Yeah, solid deer.
I was all over that one.
Yeah, see that right there is a that you saw it. We both saw it.
Yeah.
That's a that's what I'm talking about when I say a mature, old bruiser deer. That's a prime example of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So he's like, "Do you think I messed up by letting him walk?" I'm like, "Man, you get more deer than mine does." He goes, "I know, but I want your opinion," which is really interesting. I go, "Well, what's your goal?
There you go.
How much more time do you have dedicated to hunt?"
Excellent.
These are the questions I answer. I go, "For me, I wanted a buck sooner than later. That way I could focus on taking my kids out. I
Yeah.
sat 3 times with my kids since shooting my buck and haven't even seen a deer." And he said, "My goal is always to go after my number one target I pick out every year. And I always try to shoot a bigger one than the year before. And I'll pretty much hunt most of December." I go, "Well, there's your answer. Go
Yeah,
get him."
go get him. Yeah, absolutely.
And he goes, "Thank you."
Yeah, he just needed a little reassurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's he's in the season of his life of that's his goal. You know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own goals.
Yeah.
And I won't bash him for it.
No. What's your goal? You gotta define that
Absolutely.
before you go out.
And stand on it and treat it like it's everything.
Yeah. When I saw that big buck on camera this year, when that first showed up,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, I would love to shoot him," but knowing that I haven't killed a deer since 2020,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I can justify time just to hunt him when I need to
Right.
be doing a lot of other
Yeah,
stuff.
I understand. That's understandable.
So it was interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, another hunter's perspective.
Sure.
Sorry, guys. Just hearing, people think it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. Do I let them walk? Do I not let them walk? It's like, okay, are we hunting animals for antlers? Are we hunting them for meat? Are we hunting it for both? Because it can be an and. Life is an and thing. It doesn't have to be an or.
Yeah.
Oh, you're only a meat hunter or you're the quote unquote trophy hunter. You're only a trophy hunter.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, no, I can be both. And if my goal is to shoot a bigger deer than the last year,
Yeah.
you're never going to get there by shooting smaller deer.
Yeah. Yeah. I just treat it as conservation and October, October rolled around and my wife was like, "Hey, go look in the freezer." And I opened it up and we're getting low on meat and we don't have a slaughter date coming up anytime soon. And it's like, all right, three deer need to be killed pretty soon so we can get that freezer back right. So that's what I did, that's all we eat. So it's a big thing.
I love it. There was, for a couple of years, it was all we ate.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
I loved it. I want to get back to that point.
Yeah, it's that's like after I got out of bodybuilding, that was like a goal of mine is like that's what we're gonna eat and that's what we're gonna do and that's what we've been doing since,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so excited. I will tell you this. Next year, I'm not hunting a target buck per se. I'm going to shoot my buck during archery season. As much as I love the rut,
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah, it's I understand. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Like if I could, or maybe if I would have set my lease up differently. I don't know. There's a lot of questions or things that I could mix up.
Sure.
But I definitely want to shoot my buck during archery season next year.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
First two weekends, I want a buck down.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I want to go shoot does.
Absolutely. You got to keep it in check. That's I haven't counted our tags, but I want to say we got somewhere around 30 doe tags this year. The state comes out and we have a biologist dedicated to us and they do a deer count and that's what they allotted for us and they expect them to be filled. That's their recommendation on population for the maximum benefit of all animals. That's how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got some deer to kill. And none of it's going to be wasted. We've never wasted a single one of them.
Make doe hunting great again.
I mean, I'm telling you, I've bought another freezer for it.
Yeah.
Killed a lot of deer, but it tasted real good, and I love it.
I love it. I love it. All right, brother. Let's wrap this bad boy up. What are you looking forward to coming up?
When do you feel like envisioning yourself you're going to shoot your buck?
The next time I go sit.
Yeah.
I think
It's
of it like
it's
that
getting
every
to
time.
that point?
No.
No, but you're
I'm
just
not.
saying.
Every time I hunt, I'm looking for the big deer. I've got my wife hunting as well right now. Trying to get her on the bull buck. Which is a cold deer. Needs to be killed. Older deer. Hopefully she gets it down and we can get some pictures of it so everybody can see.
Yeah.
Pretty unique looking animal. For myself, I've got meat in the freezer now, so I'm looking for a big buck. I'm not going to let it dwell on me. I don't know. We'll see when it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
I've killed them late in the season. That the biggest one I've killed out there, which you've seen, is one I killed in the snow. I killed him. It was after Christmas when I killed him. No, it might have been Christmas Eve. It was late in the year when I killed him. So I don't get in a hurry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in this episode. Hope you you get to chew on some stuff.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's just nice to hear the thought processes of people so that you can then evaluate for yourself and be like, okay, am I doing the same thing? Am I not?
Yeah.
It's not whether right or wrong. It's just
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know.
A diamond is only beautiful because of all the different facets on it.
That's right. You gotta have that cut.
Yeah. So we're all just sharing our experiences, talking all about it. Guys, thank you so much for following along with this podcast and all the content that we're putting out at Soul Seekers. Thanks for watching our episodes on Carbon TV. What would be really helpful is if you guys want to support the mission, support the podcast and the show, is to go to online store and pick up some merchandise. So we got some hats, some stickers, some shirts, sweatshirts, all that. And every little bit helps share the mission. Remember, mentorship is conservation. If you want hunting to last for generations to come, then you need to invest in the hearts and lives of other people. And you can't wait for other people to do it. You got to be the change that you want to see in the world. So if you really care about hunting, then talk about it like it's the best thing in the world and share it and give it away. And ultimately, you're going to be rewarded because you can never outgive good. And that's something for all of you to remember. Hope you guys are ready for December and Christmas coming up. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sam.
You bet. Absolutely. Enjoyed it.
Man, always a good one. Guys, if you ever want man, I need a little more something in my throat right here. If you guys ever have podcast episode topics that you want to hear or have us cover, I'd love to hear from you. Go to our website, hit the contact us page, or social media, drop us a line. Let us know what you think of the episode and the show and so much more, because I want to be delivering content that is beneficial for all of you. So be blessed. Freedom on. Remember that you can never outgive good. Stay soulful, everybody. For Mack, Sam Singleton, we out. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.